Thank you for joining me for another Quick Hits conversation. I'm Dr. Robyn. With me today, I have Greg Burton, JC Glick, and Seema Desai. Today, I would like to ask the question, how do you know where your lane is and where it ends? JC, can you kick us off?
Yeah, this is a great discussion. I think it's something that we all struggle with, right? What's my role? How do I know if I'm getting into somebody else's role? How do I make them feel comfortable if I'm trying to help? And I've given this some thought, and I'll tell you, I've always got to keep an eye on kind of the micromanagement part of it, like how am I taking over for somebody? Mm-hmm. But that said, I think that there has to be a discussion early on to avoid this and say, like, look, tasks are everybody's tasks. So in the military, there used to be this thing called NCO jobs and officer jobs, right? And you didn't do NCO jobs and NCOs didn't do officer jobs. I didn't believe in that. I believe there were leader jobs, that the leader that's there needs to act on the thing that they're seeing and then follow up with the other person so that it's a shared responsibility. I think what that takes is you have to start getting away from ego, right? Like, this is my lane, that's your lane. And I think that conversation has to start in the beginning with hey, these are all leader tasks. We're all leaders in this organization. I may do something that may be in what you consider your lane or your silo, but we don't want to be siloed. We don't want to be stovepipe. So I may grab something, but I'm always going to keep you informed and try to get rid of that ego piece. I think it's really hard to make sure that you have that conversation early on, because if you don't, everybody's going to be very protective of their things.
Greg or Seema?
It's interesting because I feel like where you are, is it at home with your children, or is it, for me as the doctor in the office, it's, well, doctors don't sweep up the floor. It's not what we do. And, well, that's an assistant's job or whatever. Or even as a coach, it's those lanes and how acceptable they are to cross them can vary. But to JC's point, ego kind of creates those silos. And as much as the human tendency is to want to compartmentalize and, well, if I can keep this thing over here going well, then the rest of it, it won't matter if it's spoiling or not. And that's the reality is we're so deeply connected on so many levels that the more we try to fight it by siloing and by compartmentalizing, it creates more friction. So I can't agree more, just making sure that when we go to say or do something, first of all, to have that pause first. Is this really what I'm seeing? Is it true or is it truth? Is it true for me or is it actually true? Having that power in that pause is crucial to being respectful of the proverbial lane, if it were to so exist. So that when we speak, we do it with a little bit more awareness instead of just popping off. And everyone is a leader by default or by choice. So if you see a leader sweeping the floor, to me, that's leadership, and it's not reflective if that communication is important too. I'm not saying you're not doing your job. It's just that I saw it and it needed to be done. And I know you have other things on your plate. This was my attempt at helping you with your job.
Greg, what are your thoughts?
Day to day, my girlfriend and I always have this thing at the end of the day. Okay, who's going to cook? And the thing is, both of us are really good cooks. And sometimes I think that I probably could make whatever dish we're planning on making better. And you have to release that and say, okay, I'll eat whatever you make, because I'm sure it's not going to be bad in the first place. So go ahead. If you want to cook tonight, that's fine. I think that there's two sides to that ego thing. One is I'm too good for this thing to do. And the other one is that someone's better at it than I am. And I have to release on both sides and say, okay, if it's something that has to be done, I'm going to do it, as you said, Seema. And on the other side, you have to say, hey, you're better at this. Let's let you do it. Our developers for the site are in India, and they have made 250 sites. I've made 4. So, and they have much more hands-on knowledge of current technology. And I'm like, great, it's yours, do it. And so we had a call this morning at 5 o'clock that said, we have an urgent problem. So I got my head of tech, who's in America, on the line with these guys on a Zoom call, and we were going back and forth with what the problem was, and we got it solved. But I'm glad I wasn't the guy who was doing the code who had a problem. because I would know what to do. So I think it's really important to have that ego thing work both ways. You release one way and you release the other way. If there's something that has to be done and I can do it, dig in, go do it. And you're right, that's a sign of leadership as well. So you guys,
I think for
great
me,
job.
so I think about lanes in a different way. So in the broad world of coaching, I see a lot of people who are doing things that they are not qualified to do. You know, the easy part of coaching is unpacking people's emotional boxes. The hard part is what do you do with it once you have everything out of the box?
Mhm.
And I see a lot of people in the coaching space unpacking boxes that they have no idea how to manage. When I say they're not staying in their lane, I mean that they are reaching outside of their expertise and getting, convincing someone I can do this, and they're doing it when they shouldn't be. They are not qualified to be doing it. So that's when I ask the question, where is your lane and how do you know when you've strayed from it? How do you recognize when you're doing something you are not qualified to do?
A lot of times my gut just tells me, I just feel a little skittish. I'm getting someplace where I'm taking too long to get something accomplished, or it's just not happening. And if it is happening, it's like it's rung by rung instead of just jumping past the challenges. So yeah, it just feels wrong.
Yeah. So I'm horrible at this because I grew up for 20 years in a culture that says you can do anything and then lets you prove that you can do anything. So I've been able to be put in uncomfortable positions where, quote unquote, I was not qualified to do the thing, but I absolutely could do it, and I could do it to a high level. And I think that it's something that is very unique, I think, in the military world, where we just look at something and we go, yeah, I can do that. I mean, it won't be pretty, but I can do it, and I'll give it a try and whatever. There's probably somebody better at it, but you need me to do it? Yeah, I'll do that. And I think it's a real challenge. And I think there is a balance, because I do see the other side where so many people are like, oh, I'm not qualified to do that. Well,
right.
I'm not really sure what qualifies you, right? So I have a thought, certifications are capabilities. That says nothing to capacity. And whoever gave you the capability, whoever's your certifying official, who are they to certify? They've created standards that may or may not be right, and you've agreed to buy into those standards. I'm not sure that makes you any more or less qualified. It means you've gone through a curriculum, maybe, that allows for this. But I worry less about that. I think I'm very open and honest about, I can do this. It's probably not going to be pretty, or we're going to stumble through this together. But I am horrible at actually saying, yeah, I'm probably not qualified to do that.
So two things come to mind for me when you say that. It's really an interesting perspective, because there's the one from the world of medicine, which is completely different than the world of coaching. Robyn, I wholeheartedly agree. There are coaches out there that are calling themselves coaches, and it's a lot of harm.
It's scary.
It's scary, and it's not permissible. However, as a female doctor, I'll tell you, the whole idea of, women in these roles where traditionally males were there, and particularly women, of course. So I remember I went to dental school straight out. I finished really early. I was young for a dental student, but old enough, 21. So when I graduated, I was 25. Some of my classmates were older male, like they'd gone to do a PhD in biochem, or, they'd had real world experience, but we were coming up as doctors together. And I remember my first year out, this mom comes in with her 15-year-old son, and the kid needs a root canal on a front tooth, which is, for those of you who don't know, pretty simple. It's not as complicated as the back teeth, but even so, fully qualified to do this. And she looks at me and she's like, you seem kind of young, and that procedure seems kind of invasive. So I'm going to ask for a referral. And I thought, okay, you're going to pay like 3 times as much for something really simple that I'm more than qualified to do. But because I am young to you, too pretty, I'm going to have to acquiesce to this. But I know my male colleague that graduated with a PhD in biochem before he got his CPDS, no one's ever questioning whether or not he's qualified. No one ever bats an eye. If he says, we've got an XYZ, well, we've got an XYZ. My point is that those gender biases and the, ageist biases, not even necessarily gender, it's what qualifies somebody. Well, we're the same. We went to the same top-rated dental school in the country.
So other people putting lanes on you. There's
On
so
you,
much
right.
about where is your lane? What lanes are people putting on you? Should you go outside your lane? Should you not? There's so much to unpack there. And that is 10 minutes already. So I'm going to have to cut us off there. Thank you so much for having this conversation with me. And I look forward to talking to each of you again very soon.